The Hope Accord is a collaborative effort to rally support for removing the COVID vaccines or so-called vaccines, transfection agents, from the market for reasons that will be well familiar to viewers and listeners of the Dark Horse podcast. Now, on the one hand, I will say that response to the Hope Accord has been spectacular in the short number of days that it's been up. We're already well over 30,000 signatories. Many scientists, doctors, and other folks with expertise have signed the accord. So that's great. And 30,000 is a large number for a small number of days. On the other hand, because this is an initiative that we have the view on the back end, we can also see how many people are looking at the thing. And it's orders of magnitude more. So what's going on?
So what you're saying is many more people are looking than are signing.
Yes. And it would be one thing if they were looking at it and having a negative reaction, but we're getting nothing but positive reactions. So that leaves me thinking, obviously, lots of people are curious about things, and, you would expect, the number of signatories isn't going to be larger than the number of views. It will always be smaller for whatever reason. But the question is, how can we get the massive number of people who look at this document and resonate with it to actually take the step of signing it, and why aren't they doing it? And I think there are a couple things going on. One, I think we have all been traumatized and retrained by the propaganda campaign and the stigmatization that went along with things that happened during the COVID so-called pandemic. So people are in the habit of keeping their cards close to their chest because almost no matter what you say, you're in trouble with somebody, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there's a sense of like, well, it's a tragedy of the commons. It's a collective action problem where lots of people who would absolutely be on board with pressuring the powers that be to remove these dangerous products from the market would rather not have their name on a list where they've said that. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to argue that it is essential that you do this. And another thing that is contributing to people maybe not converting their support into an actual signature is the sense that this is in the past. The mandates are gone, that most people aren't taking the shots, so the urgency isn't there. And I want to make 3 points that I think will cause people to realize that this is very much a live issue. The first one has to do with a friend of mine. I will keep her name private, but a friend of mine who is working under a work permit, she's an immigrant, is now being forced, despite being young and healthy, and despite whatever argument there may or may not have once been for there being an emergency. I lean towards there was no COVID emergency, but whatever emergency might once have existed, everyone acknowledges is gone. And yet somebody seeking a work permit in the U.S. is still mandated to get a booster for no reason. There's not an argument for a healthy young person getting it in the first place. There's no collective need for anyone to get it because it doesn't block transmission and contraction. And yet we are still pressuring people to play inoculation roulette with their health. And it's completely unfair. So even just to know that there is somebody out there who is going to have to take one of these shots for no medical reason whatsoever and with every reason not to. This is somebody young enough to have children. If she chooses to have children, there's also reproductive consequences. So, even just that one example says, oh my God, there are thousands of people who are facing that. And many of them are going to take a shot because they have no choice. They don't want to fail to get their permits. They don't want to live here illegally. And for those people, you should do it. Second thing is the CDC just recommended these shots for all people over 6 months of age. Mm-hmm. Now, that is perfectly insane in light of what the COVID crisis is at the moment, at the very least, never mind what it once was. But you want to recommend these to healthy 6-month-old children for what possible reason? Even if you thought that these things carried no risk, which is obviously wrong. They are not only risky, they cause harm to a substantial number of people. But even if we didn't know that, you are taking children who fend off COVID very easily as a result of innate immunity, and you are disrupting the natural trajectory of the development of their immune system. You don't know what the long-term consequences of that are. It may be that in a world where there's COVID circulating and it's not a serious disease and it's readily treatable, that actually contracting a mild cold-like version of COVID when you're young and healthy gives your immune system something to work on as the disease progresses. And by inoculating people with a static view of spike protein that isn't relevant to the currently circulating version, you're disrupting their own ability to fend off the very disease you claim to be protecting them from. And you're putting them at great risk at the same time. So babies, they can't defend themselves. We are supposed to have a right to informed consent. A baby's parents are supposed to exert that status on behalf of the child. And a parent going into a pediatrician's office being told the CDC is recommending this is going to be in fear of being told they're an anti-vaxxer. And of course, doctors are strong-arming people into taking vaccinations that have never been demonstrated to cause a net benefit to health. So anyway, do you really want babies to be injected with these things because the CDC is recommending it for whatever reasons of corruption and insanity live in that agency? No, you don't. And so we adults are supposed to protect children. This is a way to protect children. You sign this thing and you let people know we are not going to let this slide just because nobody's mandating us to take the shots anymore. Okay, and the third reason is the mRNA platform is a potential gold mine for pharma. And the defects of that platform have nothing to do with COVID. They have to do with the way the mRNA shots induce immunity in the body, which puts us at risk because, as I've said many times, the mRNA is taken up haphazardly. It's taken up wherever the shots circulate by whatever cells they encounter. When cells produce a foreign protein, as the shots direct them to do, the immune system regards them as virally infected, and it attacks those cells and destroys them. As I often say, if that happens in your liver, it's not a big deal because you can spare some liver cells. If it happens in your deltoid, it might have an effect on your strength, but it's not going to shorten your life in all likelihood. If it happens in your heart, it very well might. And the reason is because the heart does not heal, it scars. So especially in the period where you've got a wound prior to scarring, it's very dangerous. And after it's scarred, you have a heart that will perform suboptimally for the rest of your life. So the idea that they are reformulating other shots, they're making bird flu shots out of mRNA, they're going to do regular flu. They have everything planned for this platform. We need to get the shots that already exist on the market taken off in order to make it clear we're not putting up with this. They are not done with us, and we have to fight now, even though it seems like the pressure is off. Sign the accord. Obviously, if you don't agree, don't sign it. But I think when you read it, I mean, it's very carefully written. It errs in the direction of caution. There's a part of me that wishes in some places it was more aggressive based on what we've come to understand, but it's hard to disagree with it.
Can we have Zach just scroll down and show? So we, the undersigned healthcare professionals, scientists, and concerned members of the public call for 1, the immediate suspension of the COVID-19 mRNA vaccine products, 2, a comprehensive reevaluation of the safety and efficacy of all COVID-19 vaccine products, 3, the immediate recognition and support for the vaccine injured, 4, the restoration of ethical principles abandoned during the COVID-19 era. That's a big ask. Mm-hmm. And 5, addressing the root causes of our current predicament. Even bigger, but, critical.
Right.
Yeah.
And, if you do the first ones, the other ones naturally follow. If you say, why did we do what we did during COVID? Because that story reveals the dysfunction of the system. Not only was it important as a story, but the story itself, the way it flowed through the media, the way it affected online behavior, the way it revealed the connection between government and the social media platforms. It told us what world we live in, and it's the Truman Show. So those shots have to be pulled. Not another person should be injured by these things. There's no reason for it. There's no demonstration of net benefit. There's certainly no reason to inject a healthy young person. There's just no argument. I don't even know what the argument would be in light of what the evidence says. Yeah. So given all that, let's follow through. Let's get the shots, which are the most concentrated element of harm, dealt with. Let's get them off the market. And then let's reevaluate. How did we get here? What happened to academia? Where, where were the universities that said, we've looked at the evidence and it doesn't add up? Not a one, right? Nobody.
They were too busy instituting mandates for their healthy undergraduates.
There you go, which a few of them still have, amazingly enough.
They sure do.
That can be a fourth thing on the list. There are mandates in some places, like several universities. Those kids don't need to get injected with this stuff. It's insane.